Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Record Drums Online podcast, the podcast where I get to interview and chat with session drummers, mixing and mastering engineers, and also music producers. Today's guest is one of my favorite artists in the world. I had such a great time chatting to him. His name is Otis McDonald, also known as Joe Bagale. Man, if you don't know his music, is everywhere on all social media platforms. He's been doing this for I think about 12 years now, going with this alter ego name, which is Otis McDonald. Incredible musician. If you don't know, if you're a drummer and don't know his music, just check out his YouTube channel. He's got some amazing live streams where he writes beats in about 2 hours, and he writes songs in about 2 hours, and it's mind-blowing, just incredible. I watched that through COVID, and it was one of the best experiences, just learning from him. So yeah, if you're a drummer, producer, or a composer, make sure you check it out. And yeah, in this episode, we talk about all the good things in his career, starting from Rochester, New York, then moving to California, getting the studio, the Headhunter studio, play with the Grateful Dead, how to mic up his kit and get those like really punchy and amazing hip hop / 70s sounds. It's one of my favorite episodes, this one's, and as always, make sure to subscribe, to like, to tell your friends about this podcast so they can keep on growing. And yeah, as always, without further ado, here he is, Otis McDonald. Yeah, man. No, yeah. Actually, if you could give us like a little introduction, I mean, I know it. I know the introduction, but if you could give to our listeners, like, could tell us a little bit of your background story on how you started in music.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, okay, so my real name is Joe Bagale, and we can come back to why I go by the name Otis McDonald these days. But I'm from Rochester, New York originally, and I was born and raised there, and started playing the drum set when I was 7 years old. And if you watch my live streams, you see me play on these Camco drums, that is the first drum set I ever touched when I was 7 years old. Yeah, so a lot of people ask me about how I get my drum sound. A big part of it is I've been playing that same drum set my entire life. And when I moved to California when I was 19, I took a leave of absence from school and came out here, and I moved my drums I packed all my clothes inside my drums and they were my suitcase, and I came out here. But let's see, I started playing drums when I was 7 in Rochester, and my father's he's retired now, but he was a music teacher. Drums was his main instrument, and I was fortunate enough to have a studio in the house. At that time, it was in the attic. We lived in the city of Rochester, in the hood, and my two older brothers, they started playing guitar, and I just wanted to play with them.
Yeah.
And we all loved music, but our parents certainly didn't push music on us, but they played a lot of music for us. And we spent a lot of time camping for family vacations. Like we couldn't really afford to stay in hotels or take flights, and so we would camp all around the country. We'd pile up in the station wagon, and I mention that because those were like super formative experiences for me. Not only like personally, but like musically. I would hear, my dad would play like Paul Simon records, and then Ennio Morricone, and then speaking of Italian, and at that time the soundtrack to The Mission, which was an amazing film, and that score,
right?
Oh
The
yeah,
one with the
yeah,
oboe,
yeah, with the oboe, yeah. That score was just I have it's like etched in my brain from those camping trips. But yeah, we listened, that, and then Joni Mitchell, and then Steely Dan. I remember my brother Peter could not stand Steely Dan because he didn't like the way Donald Fagen's voice sounded, as as most kids. But I mean, we all thought it was kind of strange, and then of course we grew to love it growing up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But between like what my parents were playing on the cassette deck in the car, and then my brothers would be in the back with their Walkmans on, and they would have been ripping our dad's record collection. So they'd have like Billy Cobham, like Spectrum,
Wow.
and Headhunters by Herbie on their cassette decks, and they leaned more towards like the funkier stuff because we were also children and this was in the late '80s at that time. And so hip hop was huge, and so we
Mm,
all
mm, mm, mm.
wanted to participate. So my brothers would be like rapping over like Red Baron by Billy Cobham and shit,
Yes, man.
And so I was just like kind of in between all of it. And then and Michael Jackson was probably the first stuff. Yeah, definitely like first stuff I ever remember hearing.
Hmm.
And on one of those really huge camping trips, m- we traveled all the way to Wyoming. We got as far as Montana actually, but we went to Yellowstone. And I remember in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, we stopped at a record store, and my dad bought Toto 4 on cassette. And so I was 7 years old or 8 years old at that time. I think seven. I think I was probably seven. So it was all new, like starting to play music, and I was really into Michael Jackson. And my dad got Toto because he was like, "Oh, these are all the guys that play on
Yes.
those Michael Jackson records."
Yeah, yeah.
And that was like huge, huge. I remember getting home from that camping trip and our little boombox that we keep in the kitchen. If as long as my family was not in the kitchen, I would like press play on that album from top to bottom, and I would act like I was in the band, like singing on a broom handle, like the whole, typical
Yes.
shit you'd see it in a movie. So I was just hooked, man. And then and then of course like Bad had come out, semi recently at that point, and Dangerous was on its way to come out, and so I was just like deep into all of it, dancing, singing, playing
Wow.
instruments. And then my brothers would show me these jazz funk fusion records, and I loved it. I didn't really notice that it was anything different than anything else. It was just funky, and it made me want to dance. And and then when I was 10 years old, that was when I started playing a lot more instruments, and I couldn't get into concert bands at school on the percussion because like every kid wanted to play percussion.
Yeah.
So my dad recommended I check out trombone, so I started playing trombone, and that was like kind of really the beginning of my music education and just learning how to read music, learning how to read rhythms, um, and just playing a melodic instrument.
Mhm.
And then that same year, I got really into the band Nirvana, and that was kind of my departure from the R&B world
Pop.
that I was
Yeah.
immersed in, and I got really into Nirvana, and then all of the grunge shit that was coming out at the time, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden,
Okay.
Stone Temple Pilots, those were like my main bands. And so naturally I wanted to play the guitar. And my brother
Yeah.
Peter, who was still home because my oldest brother was in college, but my brother Peter was a tremendous resource for me. And he was like, "Oh yeah, you can play all that stuff." He's like, "You just got to know this position, and which is like a
Yeah.
bar
The F.
chord."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's
Right.
once I figured out and I had the strength to play a bar chord, it was like, "Whoa, I can play any Nirvana
Yeah.
song now, or any Weezer song, or whatever." And so then by the time like end of sixth grade and beginning of seventh grade, I started getting really into the Beatles. And that year, which this would have been 1995, that year is when the Beatles anthology came out, that documentary.
Mm. Yeah.
And that was pretty fucking life changing for me, watching that, watching them perform, but then having this understanding that these guys were so young, and they were realizing that they couldn't improve with what they were given in playing live at that time, playing in stadiums and not having a proper PA system and loads of fans screaming, and I was just so impressed by the maturity of these guys that they decided they didn't want to do that and they just wanted to focus on the studio. And that was pretty much it. I was like, I want to do that too,
Oh, same, yeah.
and so I like started my first band that year, and my dad started teaching me how to use this tape machine that I actually still have here in the studio.
Right. Sorry,
uh,
sorry, sorry to stop you. Just one second. Like I just your father, was he a musician as well, or was it
oh
just
yeah,
like
yeah,
someone
I
that?
mentioned that earlier. He was a music teacher.
Oh, he was a music teacher. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What was he teaching exactly? Like, I mean, music, but was he like was he playing any instrument in particular? That is it?
Well, drum set is his main instrument,
Oh,
and
okay. Okay.
but he played a bunch of instruments.
Okay.
The only instruments he did not really play were string instruments, which I think is which is why my brothers decided to
Came.
play
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
guitar,
Yeah. I
because
see.
like they
Okay.
didn't have to put up with music teacher dad. And and then my brothers totally set me up, because I wanted to play the bass, and they were like, oh no, we already play the strings, you should play the drums. And they knew that would get my dad off their back and more focused on me.
I see.
And so I
Okay.
started playing the instrument that he played, and so those Camcos were those are his drums, but he
Right.
had a number of
Okay.
drums sets. He had that, and he had a Gretsch kit that he takes out, and still to this day he still gigs with that kit. This round badge, like pit kit is what it's called. And so yeah, I was really lucky, man. I grew up with nice drums in the house,
Yeah.
and a pretty cool makeshift studio with a 8-track tape machine in the center of it, quarter
Okay.
inch Fostex reel to reel. So when I was in seventh grade and I started my first band after all, the Beatles really kind of awakening me, um, I started simultaneously messing around with this multi-track tape machine, and my
Mm.
dad started showing me how to use it. And so first time I ever recorded music was on this 8-track.
Okay.
And
Wow.
well, I mean, I recorded sounds and stuff like in singing into my boombox on a cassette deck, I
Yeah.
should say, but I really started messing around with the studio when I was like
Mm.
11, 12 years old, and playing
Nice.
around with this tape machine. And yeah,
At
and
this
then
time, you were still in Rochester, New York, or were you?
yeah, no,
Okay. Okay.
I was in what you
Still.
call middle school. So
Right.
I was in seventh grade.
Seventh grade. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Nice.
yeah, so I seventh and eighth grade, I just was obsessed with trying to be a rock star.
Right.
My band would play like school dances. We'd write songs. Even burned a CD, which was
Yes.
like pretty new technology for us.
Mm.
There weren't like CD burners in everybody's house and
Mm, mm, mm,
stuff.
mm.
So it was pretty freaking cool to be able to like take a cassette and then bring it to a friend's house, and they would help us burn it onto a
Burn a
CD.
CD. Yeah.
And then we had a CD. We had an album,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and we would
That's
show to
awesome.
our friends. Um and then by the time high school hit, I was into everything. I was playing a lot of instruments. My dad asked me what he thought, or he asked me what I thought would be the instrument I'd like to, get more serious about if music was what I was interested in pursuing. And I chose the drum set because I was still the most comfortable playing it,
Mm.
and I was just fascinated by the drums. And so he set me up with a teacher, this guy Rich Thompson, and who was a private teacher in Rochester, and then also Rich had played drum set for the Count Basie Orchestra,
Oh wow.
and so he was the guy in
Yeah.
Rochester, New York, to study with. And so I started getting kind of more serious about the drums and more serious about jazz music. And so the rest of high school, I kind of pivoted away from all
Drums. Yeah.
this popular music that I was into and got really focused on jazz. And and then by the time I was a senior in high school, I was dating this girl I met at the All-State Music Conference, and she got me into Erica Badu. And that year
Oh,
is when I was a senior in high school. Is the year that Mama's Gun came out, Erica's
yeah. Was that
second
like
studio.
99 or 99?
2000.
2000, 2000. Okay, yeah.
2000, yeah. And my friends and I that I would hang out with outside of school and smoke pot with and hacky sack with and shit. We would go. I mean, we were always going and checking out shit. We were into jam bands. We would go see Fish, and we were really into Medeski, Martin and Wood,
Oh
and
yeah,
which was kind of
so
like
good.
my gateway back to like funk music,
Yeah.
and 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 I should mention that like I was a big fan of John Scofield growing up, because my brothers were really into jazz guitar, and so John Scofield, Pat Metheny, like all that stuff, the Yellow Jackets, all that stuff was really huge in our house. We would listen to that stuff. So when Scofield put out that album with Medeski, Martin and Wood, that was my introduction
Yes.
to MMW, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this
The
is cool. This is
A
happening
Go
in
Go
jazz
album.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
A Go Go
And
was an album, man. Phenomenal.
that album, yeah, that was revolutionary. And then, of course, Soul Live when that album came out,
Oh yeah.
the first Soul Live record.
Yeah.
So I was really into the funkier side of jazz music,
Hmm.
um, and then hearing that Erica Badu record, like I did not know that modern R&B was coming out that sounded like all these classic records I loved, like Stevie Wonder and Parliament and all that stuff. So I was really knocked out and became pretty obsessed with that. And at that point, I was already accepted to the Eastman School of Music to study jazz drum set.
Mm.
And so by the time I get to Eastman, I'm like so immersed in this hip hop thing,
Yeah.
like Erica, A Tribe Called Quest, The
Yeah.
Roots, like all of that stuff. And of course, like the students were into all that stuff too. What Not necessarily the teachers. And there was a few students that knew I was really into that, and they were like, "Yo, have you ever heard this album called Voodoo by D'Angelo?" And I had not heard that album, And at that point, it was a year old, and now I'm in
Yeah.
college, and I heard Voodoo, and then that was pretty much it. It just
Yeah.
kind of like changed everything for me,
Everything.
and
Mm.
and then I not long after that dropped out of college,
Oh wow.
and
Okay.
and I took a leave of absence. Well, I took a leave of absence from college, I should say, and I moved to San Francisco, and I came
Okay.
out here because I had always been a bit fascinated with San Francisco because of Sly and the Family Stone.
Oh yeah.
I remember watching the Woodstock film when I was like 11 years old, and I was so drawn to their performance. I mean, I still think it's just, them and Jimi Hendrix probably the best
The best. Yeah.
performances, and Joe
Yeah.
Cocker is really good too, and
Yeah.
Santana. Actually, there's a lot of good ones, but that Sly Stone one is really really
No,
special.
it's phenomenal.
And
Yeah, special. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
and
special song.
yeah, so I was drawn to the Bay Area because of them, because of the Grateful Dead I was interested in, and then of course those Herbie records were all made out here.
Yeah.
And so
Tower
my
of Power
brother,
a little bit, or was it Tower of Power
Tower of
was in
Power,
in the
I
radar,
didn't
or
I didn't start getting into Tower of Power until I already had moved here,
mm,
pretty
okay.
much. I mean, I definitely knew like What Is Hip
Mm,
and
yeah.
a couple of tunes because we played them in high school jazz band, but I never like really dug into them until I got out here. Um, but my oldest brother had moved here, so I had a connection to San Francisco, and my parents were cool with it. And in fact, a lot of it was their idea that I take a break, go check it out, and
Okay.
see if because they could tell I wasn't getting everything I wanted out of music at
Okay.
at Eastman, and if my goal was to be a performing drummer, then my dad was like, you don't need a piece of paper that says you know how to play the drums. You just need to start doing it and playing, and you can go study with people and pick up a phone book. There were phone books at the time,
Yeah.
and I should mention that in high school, I was also checking out a lot of music coming out of the Bay Area at that time, like the what is now I've come to known as the acid jazz movement in the mid to late '90s, and so it was people like Charlie Hunter
Oh yeah.
and Alphabet Soup and Kenny Brooks and
Mm,
all these cats. We were getting like bootlegs of these guys back in Rochester. We would hear these bootlegs of these different artists,
mhm.
and so that was happening in the Bay Area too. So I was like, I was really interested in what was going on there, and now I have a family member out there, and so my dad was like, my mom and dad were like, you can go out and check it out, go get a
Okay.
job, save
Hmm.
money, and then move
Okay.
out there and get a job, and
Nice.
that's what I did. I came out here. I'd never been to California ever,
Wow.
and I moved here. I was 19. I was almost 20, and I came here. I slept on my brother's floor for about a month, and then got a job serving tables at a restaurant, and got a room in a cool house out in this area called West Portal,
Right.
and then I started picking up the paper and checking out all the live music scenes, and then I see this guy Scott Amendola is playing, and Scott Amendola, is the drummer for Charlie Hunter,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, he's playing at a restaurant, So I go and I watch the set, and he hosted a jam session at the time, and then, I go up to Scott. I'm all shy, and I introduce myself, and then yeah, he gives me some drum lessons,
Oh,
and so
great.
I did
Nice.
exactly what my dad told me to do, and then now
Yeah.
Scott's a dear friend of mine. I love Scott,
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Eh,
yeah, yeah.
but I was such a huge fan, and still am a huge fan of Scott, and
Okay.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that really kind of got it all going for me out here.
Started. Yeah.
Yeah, I would serve tables, and then I would sneak into clubs because I wasn't 21,
Yeah.
and then there was this one really happening club called Bruno's, and every Tuesday night there was this collective of musicians known as the Jazz Mafia that would be
Okay.
doing stuff there, and and then I got to know those guys, and in particularly Adam Thies, the leader of Jazz Mafia, and I was between going out and seeing those guys play, and then a little bit of schooling I was doing at SF State. I was taking a couple of music business classes.
Uh-huh.
And I had this teacher there who really liked some of the recordings I was making. I should say that when I was serving tables, I bought a laptop and bought Pro Tools and started
Oh, right.
teaching. That was the beginning of digital recording for me. When this was 2003.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd only done tape recording,
Yeah.
and so I started teaching myself Pro Tools, and then eventually took a class on Pro Tools at SF State, and took a music business, starting your own record label class.
Okay.
And I was making all these demos of songs that I was writing and that I
Right.
was singing and playing all the instruments. And I started showing them to this teacher that I had, and he was really knocked out by it and connected me to a recording studio in town called Coast Recorders, which was a legendary spot. And so before I remember getting off a shift serving tables, and I had a voicemail from my teacher, and he was like, "Hey, before you come to class tonight, you can show up late. I'm setting up a meeting for you to meet the owner of this studio, this guy named Ben Yonis." And so I go to the studio, and I have my little demo CD. I
Yeah.
didn't really know what to expect, and I don't think Ben really knew what to expect either. I think he thought he was meeting a potential intern, and I
Mm,
didn't
mm, mm,
know.
mm.
I was just showing him a record producer something that
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
working on, and then Ben loved it, and then I was looking to move out of my house at that time, and I wanted to move to the East Bay because my girlfriend at the time lived out there.
Okay.
And Ben was like, "Yo, my roommate and I are actually looking for a new housemate, and we have a recording studio at the house too. And
Ooh.
I'd happily teach you how Pro Tools works, and maybe you can come work for me at the studio." So I got a
Sold.
job at this recording studio,
Oh, wow.
a-
Okay. All right.
and he was paid. All he could guarantee me is that he would pay my rent, which at the time was only $500 a month.
Yeah.
This is back in 2005 or something. And I had started playing with this band that I met on Craigslist called Reorchestra, which was kind of like a jazz fusion group.
Mhm.
And so I had some gigs, and I was getting a job at the studio.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
stopped serving tables. I just took a risk
Yeah.
and started doing that. And then I'm at that studio, and then who are some of the first people I meet? The Jazz Mafia guys. They're
Oh, no
rolling through,
way.
they're recording. So that's how I really kind of became friends with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it kind of really exploded for me at that point. Then I started working with Jazz Mafia
Oh,
all
I
the
see.
time.
As a
And,
drummer, you were
as a singer. It
as a
started
singer.
off
All right.
as a singer,
Wow.
and then I started working as a drummer and a drumming singer or a singing
Okay.
drummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And and then I had the first few Joe Bagale bands, and I made two albums under my name,
Hmm.
and then eventually, I mean, I traveled all over with Jazz Mafia, playing major jazz festivals, um, and then eventually, that same dude Ben Jonas from the studio, who was my roommate, he started managing Mickey Hart, and
Okay.
I wasn't in the band, but then eventually the lead singer, who was a multi-instrumentalist, him and Mickey were butting heads, and so he left the band, and they were looking for a new multi-instrumentalist singer. And I was like,
Wow.
I'll
Hello.
audition, you know.
I know a guy. Yeah.
I know a
Sure.
guy, and like I know the Grateful Dead's music, and like I'm down to
Yeah.
do that, and
Nice.
I needed steady income,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No. Of course.
and so I got a job working. I was in Mickey's band for 2 years, and that was my first kind of like big touring,
Big
being
gig.
on a tour bus,
Mm.
and I got to play with all those guys from the Dead, Bob Weir,
Wow.
Bill Lesh, Bill Kreuzman, all those guys,
Man. That
and
must
got to
have been
play with a
like.
lot of my heroes too, a lot of my percussion heroes too, like
Yeah.
Zakir Hussein and
Oh
Giovanni
yeah.
Hidalgo. Like we would, yeah, it was pretty special.
Insane. I was like stepping into such a let's say big scene for the first time, also as a
It
such
was
young
it
age
was
as well.
it
Yeah.
was pretty wild because I so at that point I was 29,
Mm-hmm.
and I was so far from that scene, in terms of the music I was
Yeah.
creating, and but I was familiar with that scene because when I was in eighth grade and a freshman in high school, I loved jam bands.
Yeah.
Used to go see Fish all the time, and I loved the Europe '72 live album by the Grateful Dead, and
Mm-hmm.
so it was cool to like hop in and see that this whole world is still gigantic, the jam band world, and all the festivals that we had headlined, and it was really cool, man. It was a definitely a big learning experience,
Mm.
just what that world is like, the road warrior world, living on a
Yeah.
bus, and I did that for like 2 years,
Sure.
and I was on the road a lot, um,
Yeah.
and
Must have been also a big change for you going, from studio work, boom, out
yeah,
touring.
playing 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must have
Yeah,
been
it was. It
crazy.
was a huge change.
Yeah. It's just like can imagine how what a difference
And not
that
playing
must
the
have been.
drums,
Yeah.
like,
Exactly. As well. Yeah. Ooh.
which was a trip for me. And I
Yeah.
felt my chops get kind of weak on the
Right.
drums because I wasn't playing them because
Yeah.
I was playing guitar and keyboards and singing. I got a lot
Mm-hmm.
better at the piano.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, and yeah, basically when that ended and I needed more work, a buddy of mine from college,
Mhm.
a close friend of mine, he started working at YouTube, and they were creating the YouTube audio library, and yeah, and then
Okay. And
YouTube.
then
That's when I started Otis McDonald. I started,
okay.
and it started. And see, I told you I'd get all the way back here. It started.
Yeah.
It started because of a song I wrote that is released under my real name, but it was one of the first songs I wrote for the YouTube audio library that was called Otis McDonald, which
Oh
was
wow.
a tribute to Shuggy Otis, and
Mhm.
Michael McDonald.
Mhm.
And because there was some components to it that reminded me of Michael McDonald, like the chords and the melody, but then I
Mhm.
put this like glockenspiel part in it, and it was like arpeggiated, and it just reminded me of Strawberry Letter 23.
Nice.
And so it was just like a very quick throwaway name. Oh, Otis McDonald,
McDonald.
last
Yeah.
names.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that song got used in a video that went viral really fast. And I had put out that song. I put up the full song on my YouTube channel, the Joe Bagale YouTube channel, and people were subscribing to it, like thousands and thousands of people, and so many comments, and it was just so wild to watch the way it worked. And
Mhm.
so many people were commenting. They were like, "Is his name Joe Bagale or is his name Otis McDonald? What's the name of the song? What's the name of?" Because it just said Joe
Ooh.
Bagale, Otis
Or the
McDonald,
McDonald. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so people couldn't figure it out. And
Yeah.
so I took the opportunity. My wife was like, "You should use that as a artist name."
Yeah.
And then YouTube came back because of the success of all that, and were asking if I'd make a bunch of hip hop beats, which I'd never made any hip hop beats at that time, but I loved hip
Okay.
hop. I
Mhm.
loved Dilla, I loved Q-Tip, I loved Madlib, and so I started just making my own samples and
Wow.
sampling myself, and that was it. That was the very beginning of all of it, and it sounded so different than
Yeah.
anything I had made before, and I was like, oh, this is cool.
This is cool. Yeah.
I like this. This is really
This is.
fun.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And it kind of just brought me back to the world of improvisation and not being a perfectionist, but just kind of interacting with the music. So being able to come up with like a small little piece of music and
Yeah.
slice it up and then start finding a new sequence, as you've seen me do on my live streams. So
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
now
That's awesome.
now it's been like 12 years that I've been doing music under the name Otis McDonald.
12 years. Oh, already. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
Man.
2014 is when I started doing that.
Wow. Man, time flies. That's incredible. That's like you got. Wow. So I guess that kind of there was like that shift came thanks to the name, right? That shift from Joe Bagale to Otis McDonald. Like that was like, okay, now time to, and also thanks to YouTube, right? You started doing all
Yeah,
this hip hop.
YouTube was the biggest thing to get to be paid to make original music and have
Yeah.
zero limitations in terms of like what they wanted. They
Yeah.
they were taking whatever I was giving them,
Nice.
and then that music within a year it was used. Let's see, 2016 I think is when there was an article that came out about me, and yeah, it was the San Francisco Chronicle did a piece on me, and they contacted YouTube, to the press people at YouTube, and they reported that in 2016 there were 3.5 million different videos on YouTube alone with Otis McDonald songs in it,
Shit.
with
Wow.
with a total of, get this, 7.6 billion views of that music. And that
Man.
was in 2016. So I have no
2016.
idea what that number is now, but
Yeah.
it was huge. And I
Yeah.
know my music is far more popular than I am as the person that
Mm-mm.
made the music. But
Uh.
that
Do you
music
mind
continue.
that at all? Do you mind that, or you actually prefer it? I don't know.
No, I mind it. I
Mm.
would like a little more notoriety. I'd
Mm.
love to be popular. I used to joke around when people ask me what I wanted to do. I'd say I want to be bigger than the Beatles. you know, Shoot for the stars.
Yeah, man.
But
Of course.
it's not. That's not in terms of popularity. It's just more like, um, yeah, just
Yeah,
I yeah
people knowing. Yeah, at least I'm hearing this, and it's like, oh, I know who made this. Instead of just
yeah
being like, oh, okay, yeah, 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 yeah.
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 So when I got the gig with Meta, so like one of the guys from YouTube went to Meta and helped start the Meta, or it was called Facebook at the time, the Facebook
Mhm.
Sound Collection. Um, and he pointed them in the team that was the music team at Meta in the direction of what I was doing, and he said you might want to consider this guy, and so they started checking me out, and then asked me to do a meeting, and so I went down to like Meta's headquarters and met everybody, met the music team there, and then they offered me a gig, and I did that really up until this year. It's no longer happening, unfortunately,
Okay.
but that was a nice steady source of income for me from
Sure.
2018 on to 2026, and
Yeah.
and the Meta Sound Collection was really cool because I was getting paid a little bit more, um, and it was monthly installments. Like they wanted a certain amount of tracks every month, where YouTube was kind of like contracts here and there, project based.
Oh, okay.
And but this was like they gave me a contract for a year, and they were like, "This is how
That's
many
nice.
songs we can
Mm-hmm.
afford to buy from you." And so that allowed me to be able to move into this space, into this studio,
Yeah.
and and then I really kind of found my sound, because then I could mic up my acoustic drums, because all the
Yeah.
early Otis stuff, there's very little live drums on it. It's all
Some
programs, and
program.
because I was doing this all in my home studio,
Home studio. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
so that when I got in here, I really kind of found the sound,
Yeah.
and
That's Studio D, right? The one where Herbie recorded the Hunters, right?
yeah, man,
Wow.
talk
That's
about full circle moment for me.
oh,
Yeah.
that's oh man, that must have been like a hell of a hell of a
Oh
moment when you
yeah,
get
dude.
yeah
I mean, I
just
I was obsessed with those records. Still
yeah.
am.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Um, and so to come across this room, like I was doing a session for my album People Music, and I was doing that at another studio that I knew Herbie did a lot of synthesizer overdubs. It's called
Mhm.
Different Fur, and that's over in the Mission. And they always claimed that Headhunters was made there, but I knew it wasn't, because if you look on the back, it says Wally Heider Studios, and like overdubs were done at Different Fur. And I had read Herbie's book, so I
Okay.
knew that
Yeah.
information. But I was working at Different Fur. I was doing the string session for a song of mine called Holiday, which is the closing song on my album People Music. And so I had a string quartet in there, and the engineer I had hired was from this studio, Fantasy Studios, which at that point had just closed.
Mhm.
And so I asked him if he wanted to come engineer this session. And he was telling me about this space. He was like, "Yo, yeah, there's a studio at Hyde Street. Now it's called Hyde Street Studios. That's available." He's like, well, he was like, "It was available. I think somebody's taking it now." He's like, "I looked at it, but it wouldn't have been great for me because of the neighborhood and bringing clients. It's not the nicest neighborhood." He's like, "But it'd be perfect for you," because I told him I was like looking for a studio, um, and my wife and I had just welcomed our first child into the world, and so I was anticipating I needed to move my studio out of the house, and I was going to probably just rent a rehearsal space and try to build a studio inside there and compete with bands and shit.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
And so we actually went back to Rochester, and we were introducing our son to the family, and I got on Craigslist and was just looking up. I literally just typed in recording studio, music studio. It was like music
Mhm.
studio, recording studio, just to see if there was like a warehouse space or something that maybe I could convert. And this place popped up. And I was like,
Wow.
"Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "That's," as I called from Rochester. I called the front desk here, and the manager picked up, and I was like, "Hey, I live in San Francisco. I'm out of town. I just came across this ad. I'm just curious, is that like the room where Herbie Hancock did all his records?" And the manager was like, "Yeah, yeah, that was David Rubinson's room, Studio D. That's where he liked to work. So all the Herbie stuff, the Pointer Sisters, like all the Headhunters
Ooh.
without Herbie, like God Made Me
Mm.
Funky, all that
Yeah,
shit
yeah, maybe
was done in here." And so I was like, "All right, well, I'm gonna be back on Monday. Can I come check out the place?" And he was
Ooh.
like, "Sure." He's like, "There is another person looking at it." He's like, "But we'll save it." And and then they offered me a lease after meeting them, come in and check it out. I came in here. The room was empty, and it was just my wife and I and our son in a stroller. And this was at the beginning of 2019, and I was like, I want it. I want to rent this space, and then I come to find out after I had moved in here that the other person or the other crew that was looking at this place was like an adult cinema company, like a
All right.
pornography company. So they might have been using this, but they were looking for like soundproof rooms,
Of
to like,
course, of course.
yeah. So pretty fucking funny.
Oh
And so
man,
that would have probably changed up the vibe in this studio
definitely,
quite a bit.
definitely,
Yeah.
for
So
sure. Yeah,
so they were
that's so
stoked
good.
that I came
I'm
in.
so glad you took it, man. I'm so glad.
Yeah,
that's
man.
that's that's
So
awesome.
yeah,
All
so
the great music you made in that studio is phenomenal. Like watching all the live streams and
yeah,
just
man, I've made a lot of music in this studio.
so much music. Yeah, it's incredible, man. I don't know how you how you manage to stay so prolific. Because the thing with you, you're not just a musician. Like you're just like you're the writer, you're the producer, you're the engineer, you're the the musician as well. You play all the instruments. So how do you, I don't know, how do you stay so hungry and like wanting to? Do you ever get like, oh, you know what, today, man, I just haven't got anything. I don't know. Uh,
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean we all go through that, and myself included. I think having these different workflows that I've created, this template that I've built using Ableton, and that thing called the Bink Looper,
mm,
and then that iPad app I use to control, that really helped me remove as much procrastination as I could from the process, because that's ultimately what gets in the way. And I started realizing it's not really like procrastination isn't necessarily attributed to like laziness. It's more like friction,
mm,
and a lot of that friction comes from technology and the labor of having to set stuff up. So to be able to turn my studio into like a giant looping pedal, that was kind of always a dream of mine ever since messing around with the Line 6 DL4
yeah.
green delay pedal with the looping mechanism. I wrote a lot of my early songs using that looping pedal. And so I when I saw that artist Bink Beats, who created the Bink Looper, I was just so knocked out by his flow live. And of course he had worked it all out, his performance. It was obviously rehearsed and thought through. But when I was watching those videos on YouTube, I was just more blown away by the technology. I'm like, how is he
Mm,
doing that? Because if I had that, I could write so much music. Because I try not to, I try not to write in a way that I'm like sitting and writing. Like
yeah.
there's nothing more daunting to me than sitting and having to write a song from beginning to end. Now, I've kind of circled back to doing that more recently, and I can get into why. But I just wanted to make music fast, and and when I'm starting with like a small little piece of music, like the sample that I create, and then throwing it in Serato sample and pitching it up or pitching it down and speeding it up, slowing it down, like I start to find all this new music, and then it's like my improviser brain kicks in, my jamming brain. Like I
Yeah.
like to jam, I like to play with other people. And that's when the best shit comes out of me.
Yeah.
So it was always hard to figure out how that process being a one man band. And when I started doing that, it was like the floodgates were open. It was just, oh my God, I don't have to think about writing. All I got to do is listen and play
Mm,
to it, find the part. And then in the end, like then I have all this shit that I just came up with, but I
yeah.
wasn't thinking about writing. I
No.
was just thinking about jamming. And and it's just fun. Well, you've seen the process, like it's
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal, man. It's so. I mean, as you were saying, it's so quick in a way. Like in 2 hours you can come out with a full song, and
yeah. It's
It's
really
like
fun, man. It's
it's
like,
just
yeah, because I think there was a certain point where I was just I felt like I was just trying to prove something to myself. And so, like, definitely had a big, like, analog phase where I was like, I just want to record everything to tape, you know?
mm,
And, and, I, and then I started realizing, like, well, what am I trying to prove? Like, I know that I know how to play a song from beginning to end. So who gives a shit if I'm making something with a 4 or 8 bar loop or 16
yeah.
bar loop? I mean, at that point, those are full sections of songs. They're not,
No,
it's,
exactly.
you know what I mean? It
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like a loop, like a 1 bar loop. It
yeah.
moves, it breathes, and then it comes back
Definitely.
around. And sometimes you can't, as a listener, even me as a listener, sometimes I can't really tell where the loop starts and ends, because
No, yeah,
it moves,
yeah, yeah,
and yeah, so just being able to like dig into one
yeah.
section at a time and get all the ideas out and then just piece
Mm-hmm.
it together,
Nice,
that was a huge game changer for me.
nice.
And so now that's how I make stuff. And but I do miss writing songs. And so I started I'll tell you what got me back into writing songs. I'm sorry, unless there's any questions you have. I
No,
know
no, 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 no.
I've
Go
been
for it.
talking
Yeah,
a
no,
lot.
no, 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 no. Let's no, no, no. I'm I'm loving this.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah,
So I started so okay, so like I have instruments everywhere at my house, here at the studio. If I'm writing a song, say on the acoustic guitar, I my vocabulary on the guitar is limited to the things that I know, and I won't pretend to be like a great jazz guitarist or an R&B guitarist, but I can, I can accompany myself and write music. So what ends up happening is is it is it 9 times out of 10 ends up sounding like a singer songwriter, like folk song or something, and that doesn't really fit into the style of music that I generally put out and what I'm passionate about. Not that I'm not passionate about folk music, I
yeah.
totally am, but I just never see myself putting out a folk record. So what ends up happening is I don't end up finishing those songs because I don't know how to take it into this other place. And recently, in the last year, I've been really discovering the power of using a program like Suno, one of these AI
Mm,
music generators, because Suno allows you to make a cover. And
yeah,
so I've been using that to upload a song that I've just recorded on my phone on the acoustic guitar. It sounds like a folk song. And then I start kind of messing around with prompts and I'm like, whoa, I could do it like that. Oh shit, I never did it like that. And I'm a good enough musician and I've got good enough ears that now I'm like, oh, okay, I can go make that. And then I
mm,
just don't listen to it. Like I might
yeah,
get like 10 different versions of my song, and I'm like, oh, I like the sparseness of this one. Oh, I really like that chord it just landed on. I wouldn't have thought to do it like that, like this
yeah,
voicing of a certain chord or something. And Suno's really interesting because like these programs are not trained on music. They're per se, they're trained on audio,
mm,
and so it doesn't necessarily know whether it's a keyboard or a guitar sometimes when you isolate the stems, and that's fascinating to me because I'm like, what is that? Like,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know if it's supposed to, and sometimes the chords are really fucking weird too. They're not
yeah,
real, but I'm
yeah.
like trying to figure it out. I'm like, oh, well, if I was to do it, I would do it
I
like
would do it this
this.
way.
And like,
Yeah.
well, cool.
Mhm.
Sweet. Thanks for the help. you know?
That's
And
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
now I'm just like writing so many full songs again. And
Oh, okay.
it's so much fun because now I've got like loads of Otis songs I haven't released, like that are back to this world. I don't know if you got hip to my album People Music, but that's like kind of
Yeah,
more like the first two Joe Bagale albums that I
yeah,
put out,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
I'd like to do more of that. And like I love making beats and per
yeah,
se or whatever. My stuff
yeah,
isn't certainly isn't strictly like hip hop. It's kind of jazz and
yeah.
fusion. it's
funk and
my own
yeah.
thing. You know?
For sure. No, no, it is true. It's true. Yeah. Actually, I wanted to ask you this: how do you see, kind of AI? Because your music. I mean, no, your music. Sorry, what am I talking about? Just like the music that, let's say, the going back to the looped kind of music. How do you call it? The beats. Like the
Yeah.
beats, kind of 8-bar beats, and they're kind of with AI. They're very replicable in a way. And I just wondered, how do you see in 5 years' time, for example, or 10 years' time, AI? Is that a problem for musicians and writers, or do you see it more like, okay, you know what, I'm going to use it just as a tool that helps me to write music? But
I think there's going to be both sides of it. I think it's a fantastic tool
mm,
to help you get out of your own way. I mean, because that's ultimately what we all struggle with. That's that procrastination, you know.
yeah,
So to be able to like hear what an end result could sound like so quickly is I think it's really cool. I think some people would argue that takes away some of the magic, but I don't know. You know, it's like
mm,
I'm not. I don't want to use the AI track. Like I want to go play it. It makes me want to go
yeah,
play.
good
Like
place.
what's wrong with that? Like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it makes me want to go play in the same way that listening to an Earth, Wind and Fire record makes me want to go play.
Hmm.
And and when I go learn an Earth, Wind and Fire song, like I don't sound like Earth, Wind and Fire when I'm playing it. I sound like my interpretation.
Sure,
And
sure.
shit, Earth, Wind and Fire doesn't even sound like the record when they play live either. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
however
yeah.
they're feeling that day, you know?
100%.
And that's so I'm not scared of it in that regard. I think it's a really, really cool collaboration tool. And it needs to
Nice.
be that needs to be stressed more. Like that
Mm,
it is a collaboration tool. It's not doing the work for you. The other side of it is though the ways that we make money as musicians. Um, say for instance, sync. Getting tracks placed in film and TV or with tech companies. I
yeah,
mean, I know that I don't have these gigs anymore rolling in because
because of AI. Yeah,
yeah, because of AI,
yeah.
and I have a sneaking suspicion that these companies are going to start um, buying more music made by musicians in order to train their own AI. Um, that's just my guess,
Mm,
and so there might be a very lucrative world to be in if you're aligned
mm,
with those tech companies like YouTube and Meta. That like I know the last 10 years or so, it's been all about rights management, which is why there are royalty free libraries out there. YouTube started it, and then quickly there was a company called Epidemic Sound, and
yeah, I remember
all
that.
these different. They all followed the same format.
Yeah,
Meta followed. So let's say YouTube wants to do that with AI. We'll see
mm,
if they're doing that. Then maybe all the other companies will follow suit, and
yeah,
then we can count on having work for another 10 years. But
yeah.
that's just one example. I mean, if you're a music supervisor and you're trying to get something in a film and the director knows what they want or the music supervisor knows what they want and you don't want to have to pay the licensing fee in publishing,
Just do it.
then what's going to keep you from prompting it and owning it? You pay your $15 a month and now you own it. So it's like, yeah, I mean, unless there's
Yeah,
like some sort of legislation that gets passed to protect musicians,
yeah,
I think this wild west world that we live in is pretty fucked up.
yeah.
It's like,
Especially at the rate that it's going, this AI, like it's just getting better and better as as
it's
every
incredible.
day is AI. So it's quite scary, when we think about it.
Yeah, it's
Just
exciting and it's
uh,
terrifying all at the
yeah,
same
all at
time.
the same time. Yeah, 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 yeah,
And not just the music AI, like all of it. Chat
yeah,
GPT, these film things. So what's the
oh
shit I
yeah.
saw the other day? Seed Dance. Did you see that video of
Nah,
what was it? Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. Did you see that?
nah. No.
Oh man, somebody made of like a fight scene with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, and it's their
Wow.
voices. Like, it was all made on this app called Seed Dance 2.0, and it's it's crazy how good it is. I mean, it looks like it's a big
Yeah, you can
Hollywood
never
budget
guess.
film.
It's actually it's not them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it's
Wow.
like, wow, we
Yeah.
are.
We're
But in
cooked.
regards to music, I mean, we are at the beginning of this thing, and everybody's terrified. It's not so different than when drum machines came out, and everybody thought that was going to take our work as drummers. We're
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
out there playing
Yeah.
drums.
Still
I'm a
doing it.
drummer.
Yeah.
I own a shit ton of drum machines. I love
Yeah.
drum machines. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
I saw
like,
you use the Lin drums as well on the
oh
on
yeah,
your live streams. Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
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 I got that. I got
Yeah.
my Lynn drum right over there, man.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it so much. I bought the Behringer one as well.
Did you? Oh,
The
nice.
LM drum. Yeah, I have that at home on my Rhodes in my living room. You
Oh
know.
man, that's wicked. That's wicked. Man, that's so cool,
Yeah. And I have a
man.
rhythm ace and I have an 808. I fucking love drum machines, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, they're incredible. Yeah, man. I need to ask you about drums as well, because yeah, because I'm so fascinated. I'm such a huge fan of your sounds.
Oh, thanks, man.
So you're like, apparently, I don't know if this is like from a video I saw ages ago. You're like quite of a fan of let's say minimal miking, or just not a lot of mics. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have your Camco kit, man. What is that snare that you use? Because
Oh,
that snare, man.
that's a
So,
Yamaha ST 493, I think is what it is.
493. Okay.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
piccolo snare drum.
It's a
Yeah.
piccolo. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
phenomenal,
but
man.
it's like a full range piccolo, like a full diameter. So it's 14 inches, just
14. Okay.
like any other snare drum.
Like any other snare.
But it's thin
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
brass and it's
Yeah.
loud. And I I came I got that so I gave a local drummer a drum lesson years ago. I guess 10 years ago, probably, maybe less. And yeah, so I gave this guy Blake Ritterman, great fucking drummer in town.
Mm.
Dude is I don't even know why he wanted me to give him a drum lesson, because dude's got so much amazing shit going on. But anyway, he was like, dude, I can't really afford to pay you. He's like, but I'd happily give you this snare drum in exchange for a lesson. And the snare drum he gave me is this Yamaha snare drum. And all he told me was like, it hasn't been much use for me. He's like, but apparently this is like the snare drum like Questlove used a lot in the early
Yeah.
Roots days and on like Voodoo. And I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that's all you had to say.
Perfect.
And I got that snare and I had it for a couple of years and couldn't quite get it sitting right. And
Mm.
then I don't know, it was like one day I was at home. This is when I had the home studio, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna fucking take the strainer off and just reset this thing up and put a different head on it. And then I dialed it in and I hit it, and I was like, ooh, that fucking pops really nice. And then I put a tea towel over it
Yeah.
and I recorded it, and I was like, wow, that is the sound.
The
Like
sound.
because I was always trying to get that dead sound, but I didn't want it to sound so like thuddy. Like I wanted it to crack. I wanted the pop, because I
Mm.
love guys like Purdy and Clyde Stubblefield, and like, that I love the sound of a snare drum that just pops. And it
Yeah.
drove me crazy that this new interpretation of like, what I would consider like the Steve Gadd sounds,
Yeah.
this newer interpretation of it was just like so thuddy and sounded like a bass drum. It didn't really sound like a snare drum.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't into that sound. And I think people were missing the point when you heard like those Steve Gadd recordings from the 70s. Like there was still a pop to it. When
Yeah.
you listen
For
to like
sure.
50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, like it's a
Yeah.
dead sound, but it's still got
Still
this
popping.
brightness.
Yeah.
And so when I started recording with that snare drum, that's like pretty much the only snare drum I record with.
Yeah. Man.
With exception to there's some reggae records I had to do, so I used my Ludwig Superphonic to do that.
Okay.
And then And then I recorded drums last year on Richard Ashcroft's latest album.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Richard. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
in
yeah,
London.
yeah,
You
yeah,
fucking know
yeah,
Richard. Yeah,
yeah.
rock star.
He's a god. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a god. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
played drums on his new
I
album.
know, I know, man. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
Oh, you heard it. You heard some of that
But
stuff.
of course, man.
Oh,
I'm a
sweet.
fan,
So
man.
I used my Camco snare drum on that, like the one that
Okay.
matches the drum set.
The drums. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But I
Okay.
think what did I put on it? I think I put a tea towel on it or something. I'm not sure what Steve had me do, but yeah, that was fun. It was fun talking to Richard
Nice.
on the phone, and he's a trip. He's a cool dude.
Yeah. It was all done like remotely as well. That one.
Yeah. His guitar player though is a dear friend of mine that lives here in the Bay Area, and
Okay.
we've made a lot of records together. That guy and
Nice.
Steve Wireman is his name.
Okay.
So, but Steve brought me in to play drums on a tune for Richard during the pandemic. It was this cover of a John Lennon tune, and they mixed it at Abbey Road. So that was like a huge fucking deal for me. I'm like
Yeah.
recording drums, and they're mixing my drums in Abbey Road studio
Abbey
too.
Road.
Like my like I've never been to London before. I've never been to England, and my dream is to
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to London because I'm gonna have a recording session at Abbey Road. That's what I've told myself,
Yeah.
and so I would love to go do an Otis thing at Abbey Road, and hopefully I can figure out how to do that.
Matt, you've never been to England, so up to now you never. Man, you need to come on.
I know.
We need to make it happen, man. Otis
so
McDonald in London.
I know so many of my favorite musicians and artists come from there. Actually, one of my good buddies who I'm playing with this weekend is from there. Ruben James. You know Ruben?
Yeah, Ruben James. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's in town. He's here for like 6 weeks because he's doing a residency at the Castro Theater with Sam Smith. And so Ruben and I have plans to work on a record together. We already have a couple of songs we've worked on the last few times he's been out here, but we're playing a show this Sunday. So
Yeah.
Ruben and Otis, it's gonna be fun.
Man, you definitely need it's gonna be sold out. Don't worry, man. Yeah, we need to make it happen for sure. Yeah. Oh,
I got to figure it out, man. It would be fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, I did that Lennon tune for Richard, and then a few years passed by, and they were getting ready to make another album, and he asked for me from Steve. He didn't know my name, but he was like, "Get that American drummer. I want him to be the drummer on this record." So I recorded like 15 tracks last year, and I think they only used 6 of them or five
Six,
or
yeah.
6. Yeah,
I think 6. Yeah.
but all those other songs that are on the album were not the one that I didn't record on any. I didn't do a version of any of those songs. Like
Okay.
there, so there's a good, what 7 more songs or whatever with me playing drums on that maybe will come out on other records. Like who knows?
Yeah, man, that's phenomenal. That's so cool. And you just put, sorry, going back to this now, you just put like an SM57, right? So the sound comes from
no.
Okay.
This is back to the Beatles thing that I'm obsessed with. No, I put an AKG D19 on the snare drum.
On the snare, okay.
And on the overhead too.
Because I remember like the overhead you use like normally like one over, like is it mono overhead?
Yeah, and that's also a D19. So the overhead I use is the Telefunken D19, which it's the same mic. It's built by AKG, but the one on the snare drum is an AKG. It's the D19C, I think, and I forget what the number on the Telefunken. I have 2 of the Telefunkens, and I have 2 of the D19s, and then I have 1 of the Warm Audio ones too, the WA19. But that I actually put on the guitar amp. Okay. So yeah, I use the D19 on the snare, D19 as the overhead, and then again back to the Beatles thing, it's like a D20 on the kick drum mic.
Yeah.
And then I love Glyn Johns, the engineer, so it's kind of based on the Glyn Johns method, like mono overhead and then a shoulder microphone back here by my floor tom.
Is that a Coles mic that you have?
It's a Coles 4038. And what's funny is like last or 2 weeks ago, I was recording a percussion group in here, and I have the other Coles, like I have a matching pair of Coles, and so I had pulled that out. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this as a mono overhead. I just want to compare, and because I've been thinking about just changing up the sound a little bit, and I mean, sounded beautiful, but then
Mm.
I A beat it and I went back and forth, and the D19 just, it was
So
just
much better.
better. I was like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's just more my sounds, you know.
Yeah.
It's just kind of punchier, and so I was like, oh, well, I tried it.
Let's leave it there.
I'm gonna stick with what I know, and
Back
so
in the
I did.
drawer.
Yeah, and then I use an Electro Voice RE20 in like the front of
Yeah,
the,
I saw it's like between the hi hat and the tom. Or is it
yeah,
like yeah?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of point it down because I want more of the low end of the drum set.
Yeah.
And same thing with the Coles. Like I think the kind of more traditional Glyn Johns method, it's like they lift they lift it up a little bit higher than where I place it. I kind of
Okay.
have it lower. To me, the
Yeah,
center
yeah.
of the drum set is all about the bass drum. Like I want the fatness of the low end.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
that was the setup for the longest time, and then I added one other microphone to the setup. I guess probably 3 years ago now.
Okay. Oh wow. Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is
yeah.
this funky old RCA. It's called
Yeah.
a BK1A, and
Okay.
I put that with the in the what a lot of people call like the crotch position of
Yeah, 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 yeah,
snare
yeah,
mic.
yeah. The break mic or crush. Yeah, yeah. There's
Yeah,
so many names. Okay,
but
and
Curtis Kelly is actually coming up here, I think this weekend, because he bought a tape machine from here in the Bay, and I went and picked it up for him, so it's sitting here in my control room.
all right.
And but he's got loads of these really cool
I saw,
vintage,
man.
yeah,
He showed
yeah,
me. He was like, "Yeah, I just got shit tons of mics," and I was like, "Okay."
shit tons, dude. And so
Yeah.
he's gonna bring a bunch of these dynamic mics up for me
Mm,
to play around with, and we're gonna spend a day, and because
nice. Have fun.
he's got some like funky Altec and RCA mics, and I'm
Yeah.
like, ooh, what are those?
Yeah.
Like I wanna play around with those.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Do you do much? Do you do much on the way in, or is it pretty much like just as it is, and then you mix things? Because every time I see you doing your live stream, man, it sounds it sounds mixed every time. Like it
Yeah,
feels like it
I
doesn't
mean
need
it
much
is. Yeah, I'm yeah, I'm definitely EQing things on the way in.
on the way
It's
in.
mostly
Okay.
just EQs. There's
Mm,
not there's very little compression on my drums.
okay.
I have a little bit of compression on the overhead. Um
Okay.
but I'm doing that all with the Universal Audio plugins on the way in using the Apollo
Apollo. Yeah.
console architecture.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So but the kick drum is yeah, I mean all the drums are going through some really great preamps, and
Nice.
so my kick drum is going through an old Siemens V72 from like the 40s, early 50s,
Wow.
and uh and then the snare drum, the overhead, and the shoulder mic, the Coles, are all going through a vintage Neve 1073. And those are with like the original cards from the console. It was a custom rack job that was done that was from Fantasy Studios,
Wow.
which is no longer around. The kick drum mic came from Fantasy too. So there's like a rich pedigree with those pieces of gear too, because so many records were made through that particular preamp. And let's see, the the RCA, the crotch position mic, is going through. I have um, a pair of the Stam audio V72s. They're
Hmm.
clones of the V72s. So I have two real Siemens V72s, and then I have two Stam
Okay.
V72s, and they're very close sounding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the RCA is going through there, and then the Roy, or not the Royer, I mean the RE20 that one is actually going through a Unison preamp on my Apollo X8P, and
Okay.
I'm running that through um, the Telefunken, the V76
Okay.
Unison preamp, and it's pretty crunched on the way in. And then everything else is just EQ. I use the Harrison 32C EQ on the kick drum
Hmm.
because I love, Michael Jackson and Bruce
Yeah.
Springsteen. Although my kick drum sound does not sound like that,
No,
it's
no,
much more muffled sounding,
yeah,
but
yeah,
but I just had enough like to play around with EQ wise, like
yeah.
the sweeps and stuff on that. It's just a phenomenal EQ if you haven't messed around with it. I only use that on the kick drum though. And then on the snare drum, I'm using the Neve 1073 EQ that's
Okay,
in the UA, because my 1073s are just the preamps, not the EQs. I don't have the full
okay.
channels.
I see.
Um,
Okay.
and then yeah, is that what I'm using on? I could let me see. What am I? I'll just pull up my console here. Uh, Oh no, the overhead on. Oh yeah. Snare drum's using the 1073. The overhead I'm using Pultec
Hold
EQs.
on.
Um,
Nice.
yeah, the Pultec Pro UA one, and then shoulder mic I'm actually using now. I used to use the Pultec, but on this one I've been using the Hitsville. Like the. Have you messed around with that one?
No,
It's
Hitsville. Oh wait, I've heard of it. Yeah.
it's modeled at. It's an emulation of the Motown
Okay. Yeah.
console
All right.
that they
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
there. But both the overhead and the shoulder mic are going through the Neve, the 2254 compressor.
Mm,
It's like very, very lightly kissing the compressor.
okay.
Um, it's like barely compressed at all, but there's a color to that compressor that it
Yeah. As soon
adds
as you put
this.
it on, it's just
Yeah, it just kind of takes a little bit of the harshness out of the top end. So I'm really just kind of using it for EQ. And then every drum channel has the Studer A800 plugin on the way in.
nice.
Every single one of them with different
Okay.
settings on them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is my drum sound. I mean,
Man.
when I and then the rest of it is like the drum bus, which I just throw another instance of that Studer plugin on there. And then I also use the Wow plugin by Goodhertz. So it's like
Okay.
more tape.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
record through tape
Tape on
sounds
tape.
and then I hit more tape.
More tape.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's pretty much it, man.
Man, it sounds phenomenal. Like it sounds. Oh my god. Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
Thanks,
And
man. Yeah, it took me a while. I'll tell you what though, Curtis is the reason I put the RE20 over in that position. And that was not the mic. We were messing around with it and we were using I forget what we were using. Maybe it was a microphone he brought. We did a session and I just remember putting that microphone there. It was like it used to be that I just had four microphones on the drums. Overhead,
okay,
shoulder, snare, kick. That was it.
that was it.
And we did this session and then Curtis was like, "Oh, let's put a microphone right here." And boy, man, when we did that and we were playing some like hip hop shit and he was playing on that piccolo, he was playing on my kit
Mm, 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 mm.
and he put the shells on top of the snare drum. And
So
it,
he also tried that. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'd always messed around with that kind of stuff since I
Yeah.
was in college, but I hadn't done it in a while. And when he did that and I listened back to that drum sound, I was like, yo,
Bingo.
that's the sounds. Like, so
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
then he took his mic back and I had to find something. So I played around with a few different ones. And something about that RE20 was just a really cool sound,
Mm,
like the brightness to it. Like so much of the high end, like the treble in my drum
yeah.
sound comes just from that microphone.
From that one.
Yeah, the
Wow.
way I blend it in.
Yeah. 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 Man, so cool. So cool. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
saw a
it's
video
pretty
with you
simple
and
though.
yeah. Well, you say that, but I'm sure like it takes a lot of time to just get to
Yeah.
that standard of having it all set up. Because as I said, like every time I hear you recording, it just sounds sounds already all mixed. It's just like I don't know. I wouldn't mix anything. I would leave it as it is. And yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean that's pretty much what I do. Because I don't want to. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to have a bunch of options. Like when
Yeah.
I bring everything into Pro Tools to mix, and when you look at my Pro Tools session, it's like you don't see very much going on.
Yeah.
Plugins. It's like there's EQs. That's pretty
Yeah.
much it.
That's all.
There's a
Okay.
lot going on the master fader, and
Yeah.
that's a big part of my sound too. Although if
Mhm.
you watch the live stream, you're not getting any of that because I'm not doing that until after
No.
I've mixed the record. But what I do on the live stream actually is I route my output of Ableton through a virtual channel in my UA console, and I throw the Oxford limiter on there. So
Ah.
it gives you an impression of like it sounding kind of mastered while I'm
Mhm.
recording, and there's
Okay.
zero latency because it's going through a virtual channel.
I
So
see. Okay.
those are
Okay.
little
Okay.
tricks that I do.
Man, no, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Man,
man.
we normally do. I don't know if you have time. I know you got a lot of stuff going on, so I don't want to. We normally do like a 10 minutes rapid fire questions. It's
That's
never
cool.
rapid
We can do
fire,
it.
but yeah, you sure? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
I'll
let's
just
go.
uh I'll just throw them. Here we go. So first one is the hardest one. Top 3 albums for best drum sound.
What?
And I have to say this because every guest is like, oh, wait a minute. As of today, so just like to me, it changes every single day. So feel free to, as of today, yeah.
Top 3 albums for drum sounds. Um, I gotta say, okay, yeah, Headhunters, specifically. Well, yeah, I mean that whole album, but like
Mm,
Chameleon, like the way Harvey Mason's drums sound on that, and at Watermelon Man, yeah. So that whole album, Headhunters,
gold.
um, fucking Voodoo,
Yeah, come on.
yeah,
Come on.
and what's a good one? I well, th- I love the sound of I don't know if it's an official live album or if it's an official album. There what the fuck is it called? It's called like Funk Power 1970, I want to say, by James Brown.
Ooh,
And yeah, Funk Power 1970, a brand new thing by James Brown. And I'm just mentioning this album because of one specific song, which is this live recording of "Give It Up or Turn It Loose," which I'm sure you've heard this recording
yeah,
on other records, but that's like the full version.
yeah.
So it's that, yeah, it's Clyde's sound on
Clyde, yeah.
that.
Okay.
And honestly, they probably just recorded the drums with like one microphone, you know. So
It sounds great.
it's more about Clyde, you know.
Yes, it's all about the drummer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nice. Number 2 is favorite part of your job.
Favorite part of my job?
Hmm.
Um when a song is finished.
The hardest part as well.
Yeah, my favorite part of the job is listening. Yeah.
Is listening. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, yeah. 3 is worst part of your job.
Um Getting started.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 4 is piece of gear you cannot do without when you're recording drums at the moment.
Oof. My drum set.
Is there any particular? I don't know. Is there any? I don't know. No, that kit, that Camco kit, it must be. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, probably I don't think I could record without that, either that kick drum sound, that kick drum mic, or I was gonna say my hi-hats. I have so many pairs of hi-hats, but it's just those old Zildjian,
Yeah,
those old Zildjian A's, like they just they they work perfectly for what I do, for when I
very
play the drums. So
nice. That's great.
so
That's
I don't know
great.
if that's a good answer. That's a hard
Yeah, that's
one.
perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 5 is dream artist you love to work with.
Oh, Paul McCartney.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, yeah, and or
Nice.
Erica Badu.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Stevie
6.
Wonder. Shit, there's a lot of them. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. 6 is what plugins you normally use. Or I mean, on your drum bus, we already talked about a bit about this, so
Yeah,
it's
it's really
simple.
just those two. I mess around with the Wow plugin by Goodhertz, and then the Studer A800. Those
Yeah,
two are always there somewhere,
always
and
there.
sometimes I might throw an additional EQ on there, but it's really just kind of two different tape emulations. So yeah.
Nice. 7, apart from watching your beautiful and amazing, and I've learned so much live streams, is there any book or video tutorial that you would recommend or you found helpful in learning how to record drums?
Oh, um, man, there was a it there was a blog that I
Mm,
read that kind of transformed things for me, and it was mostly about the low end, about how to EQ a kick drum. And I don't know what that blog was. It was
mm,
just
mm,
doing some research, and when I started messing around with those EQ curves that it mentioned, it just changed everything for me.
mm.
But I don't no, I don't I can't think of a video.
No.
I honestly think it all sucks on YouTube. Like, I,
Yeah.
the thing that bothers me about a lot of tutorials, and this is why I probably should make tutorials, is that I just don't like the music that like the examples that
Yeah, I
people are
know.
showing,
I
and I'm just
know.
like, God, this is terrible. Like, this doesn't
Yeah.
apply to me at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
no,
do the
yeah, I don't
same.
have any.
Sometimes I look up something on YouTube and I'm like, okay, how to, I don't know, EQ something. And I'm like, oh, great. And then the song, the example song is just completely different from what I'm trying
Yeah,
to mix.
yeah.
And so,
You think
yeah.
I'd do good if I started making tutorials? I started thinking about that. Like, you think I
Man,
should do
you
that?
you definitely should. Absolutely. Yeah. You definitely should. Yeah. 8 is who's your inspiration when it comes to recording drums?
Um, it's like my drumming inspiration,
Could be
or just.
like, it can even be like a producer or, a sound engineer or just,
Oh
yeah,
man, I mean Jay Dilla. That's like that's kind of my main inspiration and how to get acoustic drums to sound.
to sound like him. Yes. Beautiful.
Hmm
9, best advice you've ever received.
Best advice I've ever received: be a groover, not a prover.
Yeah. Come on. Yes.
Yeah.
10, worst advice you've ever received.
Um, Worst advice I've ever received was like when somebody told me, how to make, like, what kind of music I should write. Yeah. So it wasn't anything specific, but it was like they were like, you shouldn't do this. It was actually they were listening to a new song that I had written at the time. And it was when I started like the Otis McDonald stuff.
Yeah.
And this person was a longtime collaborator of mine and a friend. Unfortunately, we don't really
Yeah.
talk to each other anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
But he said to me that maybe funk music isn't my thing and that I should focus on a different style of music.
What? Out of
And I
all
was like,
people.
oh, okay. But that was also maybe some of the best advice because it made me dig
Pushed
even
you.
deeper into my sounds.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Thanks to that guy. There we go. Thank you.
yeah,
Now we have Otis
yeah,
McDonald. That's great.
yeah, yeah.
Nice, nice. Is there one piece of advice that you would give to someone young and aspiring musician that wants to do exactly what you do?
Um, yeah, just mm, be yourself, be patient, do it because you love it. The secret to life is to do the things that you love.
Nice.
That's it.
Great. Yeah. Awesome, man. Matt, is there what's the best place for people to find your music, and to reach out and just, even if they want to say hello and
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Instagram and YouTube are a great place if you want to reach out and say what up. I'm usually always looking at that stuff, and to listen to my music, I just I know Spotify's like kind of a bad word for a lot of people, but and anywhere you can stream my music, it helps generate some money for me. And
yeah.
the truth is I don't make half as much money as I was making 2 years ago when my streams were higher from editorial playlists. But now there's AI music and all this shit that I'm competing with. And the reality is these companies like Spotify are very similar to something like Instagram, and it's all algorithmic based. And so the more people engage with my music, the more it gets served to other people. So please just keep streaming my music.
Yeah.
Go to Bandcamp if you want to pay for it. I appreciate that too. Just my music's everywhere for a reason. You can go to my website and order vinyl, and you'd probably get it quicker because it gets printed in London. So,
Does it? Oh, really?
yeah, I'm using this new on-demand vinyl printing company called Elastic Stage. So they can print one record at a time. It's really cool.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So every one of my albums is available on vinyl, and I've already gotten 3 of them, and it's phenomenal. The quality is great. The artwork looks great. My cousin John, who does all my artwork, did the inner sleeve and the front and back covers. It's really sick.
Nice, man. That's so cool, man. We need to make Otis McDonald. We have to make it come to UK, Europe, and we have to
I
make
would
that
love
happen.
to. I would love to. It has to economically make sense for me.
For sure.
To do it. And I'd love to be able to bring my wife and kids with me, and I'd love to just go out there and stay out there for a little while and just soak it all in, because ever since I was a very young kid, I've been obsessed with London and Britain, and I mean, I love the Beatles. Come on, man.
That's exactly. No. Also, just make sure you come maybe in the summer. Like it's been raining every single day since the beginning of 2026. So I don't want to sell it to you like, oh yeah, it rains. I mean, but just like hopefully when you come, it's going to be, because when it's sunny, it's beautiful. Like it's a great, it's like, wow.
Yeah. We're deep in the rain out here right now too, in the Bay. It's the winter time,
Winter time, yeah, it is what it is. But man, thank you so much. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Man. Yeah, you bet,
Take care,
Chris.
brother.
Great to meet you, bro.
All right, man. Same. Bye.